The line at the gas stations stretched around the block. Engines idled, tempers frayed, and the sign at the pump made it clear fuel was strictly rationed. Inside those cars sat a quiet dread. The cost of living was climbing on almost everything, yet their paychecks were completely frozen, and the jobs themselves were drying up. Economists looked at this picture and panicked. According to the textbooks, you could have rising prices or vanishing jobs. You were never supposed to face both at once. A British politician named Ian MacLeod gave this combination a name: stagflation, a blend of stagnation and inflation. An entire generation found themselves living inside an economic glitch, and it terrified the people managing the world's money because they realized they had completely lost control of the system. To understand how strange this was, you have to look at the rule that broke. For years, the prevailing wisdom relied on a concept called the Phillips curve. This chart shows a stable trade-off. To lower unemployment, a government accepted slightly more inflation. To fight inflation, it tolerated higher unemployment. Policymakers loved this manageable thermostat. Want more jobs? Just adjust the dial to run the economy hotter. But that math had a flaw. The trade-off only works if people assume prices stay stable. Once you realize inflation keeps happening, you plan around it. Workers ask for higher wages. Businesses preemptively raise prices to cover costs. The moment expectations harden in the public mind, the thermostat breaks. You stop buying extra employment with your inflation. You just get the runaway inflation. The groundwork for this crisis was laid years in advance. By the mid-1960s, the United States was spending heavily on both the Vietnam War and ambitious domestic programs. Money was flowing so fast that the national money supply was swelling by nearly 15% a year. The spark that ignited all that dry tinder arrived from the Middle East. In October 1973, following a regional war, a group of oil-producing nations announced an embargo, cutting off shipments to the U.S. and its allies. Oil is the lifeblood of a modern economy. Over a matter of months, the price of a barrel shot from under $3 to nearly $12. When the energy powering your factories and shipping trucks quadruples in price, almost everything else gets expensive instantly. Normal inflation usually comes from the demand side. People have too much cash chasing too few goods in a booming economy. This was a supply shock. The cost to produce and move goods skyrocketed. Factories were forced to simultaneously raise the prices of their products and fire their workers just to stay open. That single blow to the oil supply delivered the reality the models missed: surging prices paired directly with stalled economic growth. A central bank usually has a simple playbook. If inflation is too high, you raise interest rates to cool spending down. If jobs are disappearing, you lower interest rates to encourage hiring. The mechanical cruelty of stagflation is that applying either standard tool pours gasoline on the other half of the crisis. Raise rates to fight inflation, and you crush an already bleeding job market. Lower rates to save jobs, and you accelerate climbing prices. While policymakers hesitated, a self-feeding loop took hold. Workers watched their grocery bills climb and demanded raises to survive. Businesses granted those raises, then hiked their own prices to cover the new labor costs. Everyone was making rational decisions to protect themselves, yet those choices locked the country into a wage price spiral, a trap where the mere expectation of inflation became the engine causing it. By the end of the decade, a new Federal Reserve chairman looked at the wreckage and made a hard call. He decided the old economic math was dead, and inflation had to be broken, no matter the immediate cost. The central bank pushed interest rates toward 20%, heights never seen before or since. More unemployment climbed to nearly 11%. Factories sat empty, and millions of people lost their livelihood. The pain was intense, and the backlash was loud. Everyday business owners and farmers openly rebelled, driving their tractors straight to Washington to protest the crippling cost of borrowing. The Federal Reserve triggered this widespread financial destruction to signal once and for all that the era of easy money was over. And here is the turning point. It worked. The immense pain forced a hard reset in public expectations, unwinding the wage price spiral. By 1983, inflation had dropped down to roughly 3%. That ordeal taught modern central banks a lesson they carry to this day. They are terrified of unanchored expectations and sudden supply shocks, knowing firsthand there are no painless fixes.
The stagflation crisis shattered the illusion of the economy as a simple machine with a clear, predictable thermostat. It proved that when the established rules break, policymakers are only left choosing which hardship the public has to endure.